Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good morning, and thank you for enjoying and participating to this, I hope, enjoying session. We are very thrilled, excited to talk to you about the power of AI and how AI is transforming our industry. My name is Salvatore Internulo. I'm Chief Growth Officer at Mint.ai, and I'm not alone because we have a special guest today, a partner and a friend, which is Rio, and as we said before, MD at Slalom.
Salvatore, pleasure to be here. Nice to be here in Hexagon stage with everybody. Looking forward to the discussion today, and one of my favorite people, and Mint is one of my favorite companies to work with as a partner in AdTech. So
thank you, Rio. Thank you. So just a few words of who Mint.ai is. We are a global SaaS company putting together AI and automation to support advertisers to run their businesses in a more modern, more actual way. We have offices in Europe, in the US, in South America, and have customers from many, many different industries. What we do, as I was saying before, we put together automation and AI to empower advertisers and marketeers to be more professional and better in facing the challenges and the changes we are talking about in a while. Rio?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll make it really quick about Slalom. Not everyone may know who we are. We're a $3 billion systems integrator and strategy firm, headquartered in Seattle. We have offices across North America, EMEA, and APAC, and including our office here at 2 London Bridge. I think we've got about 450 people here, plus an office in Manchester and Ireland. So, growing presence in EMEA. We really try to look at ourselves as, because we were founded in 2000 in Seattle as the first digital consultancy, you're really looking at the intersection between humanity, technology, and business. And I think it's the focus on humanity that's really helped our two firms partner so well.
This is where we also got in touch when we talk about ARM, Advertising Resource Management, when it's about consolidating not only technologies but also processes, workflows and informations, and this is where we work together. So let's try to get into what is key in this session. Creativity, I would say that in the last 4 to 5 years, creativity has been somehow already impacted by AI. Generative AI is now part of everything you do every day. But now we are in a landscape where data and technologies are more and more driving our daily operations. And are we in a new golden era?
I think we're entering one. I think the answer is yes. Generative AI is opening up some possibilities of things that have historically been very difficult. For example, personalization at scale. We all know it works. We all know that study after study shows if you give people the right content at the right time, it tends to perform better, but creating the content's always been a bottleneck. So I think things like that, generative AI is really opening up some possibilities that were maybe very difficult before. I think just generally speaking too, the industry's changing, right? It continues to change. I think I read the other day that 70% of ad spend is digital this year, right? That's incredible. I remember it crossed 50% 4 or 5 years ago, and we were surprised, right? It continues to grow, and despite cookie deprecation, despite privacy laws.
The global market value of advertising will hit $1 trillion this year.
That's amazing.
So that's amazing, 70%. So you have a dimension, right?
Yeah, so it continues to grow, right? And I think that we've seen over time, it has evolved from the world of Mad Men, where it's messaging and creativity, right? We were at Cannes Lion a couple of weeks ago, right? And you walk down La Croisette, right? It's Google, Meta, it's heavy tech. But one thing that's cool about advertising is that the tent gets bigger. Still the agencies are all there and the holdcos, right? And they're still there. They're very much present, and I think that messaging, creativity, and designers are super important. And I think what we're seeing with AI is as many things get automated, that it opens up possibilities to focus more on those higher value things that only humans can do, right? So I think that's the interesting thing we're starting to see. And look, it is a double-edged sword as well, right? When you really look at Like, how does generative AI affect advertising and the advertising industry? Like Gartner said, it's going to eliminate probably 11,000 jobs. I mean, that's scary, right?
Right.
And about 7% of the workforce, right? So you think about that, there's like, on one hand, it's going to transform the way we potentially work, but on the other hand, it could risk some jobs, right? And then I think even looking at media, the whole like way digital media is trafficked today, the whole model of 22, 22, 22. We used to joke about that in New York. And I started as an ad buyer, right? I mean, I think the model of 22-year-olds working 22 hours a day for $22,000 a year, right? And which is really, that's how digital media is run. That's how I started my career, right? A lot of those things will change.
Look at the numbers, the growth of AI in the MarTech. The global market value in the next 4 years will raise to more than $100 billion. So it's something that is growing like an explosion. If we look at some figures, again, some other stuff that you have already said, look at the top three opportunities in advertising. These are official statistics. Marketeers, more than 90% see and understand and are looking at AI to improve efficiency in existing processes. So more than expand creative capabilities, 59%. And what is also important, 82% of the marketeers see that they can increase productivity and outputs. So here is where things are changing. Creativity on one side, yes, but media management on the other side at the same stage. So what do you think, both for brands and for agencies, how are they facing this cultural change, Rio?
I think some big changes, and I think, my perspective is it's a positive change. I think the big difference we're seeing, like the first, let's say ChatGPT came out, about a year and a half ago. That first year was really, we used to joke that it was the Gen AI swirl. It was this mad dash of everyone trying to build Gen AI demos, right? And let's face it, most of them didn't go very far. But one thing I'm seeing now is brands and agencies are focusing on practical and consulting firms, for that matter, right? Are focusing on practical applications of generative AI that can really prove out very specific business use cases. And we're seeing a lot of success, whether it's applying it to the creative process.
Right.
I have an OEM I'm working with, an automotive manufacturer. All of the banner resizing, a lot of the really things that are just repetitive processes, right? That didn't take a lot of skill. Those are all being handled by generative AI now. It's speeding up productions by about 30–40%. And I'm also seeing a global oil and gas company. All the localization of content's now being handled. All the translations. I mean, the masters are made. The master templates are being made by global marketing, but then they're pushed down and localized. So things like that are speeding up things, are adding value, and they're very intentional. I think that's the difference we're seeing relative to a year ago when it was let's just throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks.
I fully agree. Thank you. I try to highlight here the three most common use cases when it comes to AI and somehow setting the stage in our daily conversation with our customers. 3 out of 4 marketeers have started and will, over the next 12–18 months, start to do campaign budgeting and management through AI. So this is something that becomes reality. 50%, more than 50%, have used predictive AI over the last 6 months, and this is another key message. And 32%, when it comes to the cookie depreciation, of brands and agencies are already using AI to enrich the first-party data and optimization capabilities. Do you see AI also expanding in the upcoming future more and more?
I do. I mean, most of our clients are asking about it. They're asking for us to give them examples of use cases we've seen in similar businesses. So, and I think now that a year and a half in, there's big enough of a catalog to point to successes, to tell brands, okay, we've seen this company do this and be successful. And I see that expanding. I see that certainly within paid media, there's going to be a lot of that. And there's one thing I love about Mint's approach, right, is building that common data foundation core, then looking at the actual process, right, the workflow, end to end. Where are specific areas in the process where you can apply generative AI in order to make things go quicker, optimize them, take I mean, I think this is a key thing. Like, it's not necessarily replacing jobs, it's replacing tasks within jobs, identifying within a job what are the specific tasks that can be automated, and then applying generative AI to that in order to make things more efficient, speed it up, and I think the message that I like to convey is, as those tasks are automated, this frees up time for the creatives and the people to actually focus on the things that humans are better at, whether that's design, storytelling. I mean, generative AI can't do that. It's not building anything new, right? Coming up with those big, bold ideas, that's what people are for. So I think that as the goal, speed things up, automate and make it more efficient, but then leave more time for the people to focus on the people things.
That's a good point. I fully agree. Thank you for raising this one. I always say that we are now in a new marketing era where we have to switch from a stomach-driven approach into a data-driven approach, and by streamlining the entire process. And here we get to the next big point of discussion. It's how many different tools are today available. We have more than 14,000. This is research done by Gartner, I think, a couple of months ago. 14,000 different marketing and advertising technologies available. And if you look on the right-hand side, almost 40% are even not used. And here I get to, I think, one of the most relevant questions, Rio. This is valid for brands and for agencies. How do you think that companies and agencies can better work to integrate AI in their daily operations?
Yeah, I think number one, like identify actual use cases that can provide quantifiable and tangible value. I think that's number one. Instead of just trying to do AI for the sake of AI, I think that's important. But I think we've gotten past that. I think number two would be, and I read a great quote from Adobe the other day. It said that generative AI is not going to replace jobs, but people who use generative AI may replace people who don't. And I think that's interesting. Why will that happen? Because people who use it will be able to do things quicker, more efficiently, and some of those tasks that are just pain in the ass, pardon my French, right? I mean, whether it's creating lots of different content for personalization, which again, it would never happen a lot. Whether it's looking for the proverbial needle in a haystack, sifting through a ton of data that maybe never would have been done or taken forever. Generative AI can handle those things extremely well, better than people, right? So I think that identifying those things that can add a lot of value by automating with generative AI, apply it to those, seeing if it works, integrating it in, and getting people excited about it. And change management's a big part of it. Getting people excited about it. And showing them the benefit of it, as opposed to the threat, because there is a lot of fear.
I agree. It's about embracing somehow AI and I would say fostering collaboration. It's about not changing and throwing people away, but it's more than like empowering humans to do their job better by taking away any kind of robotic task. We have summarized our approach in, let's say, in 3 main takeaways. Now you can see them on the screen. Embrace AI as somehow as an enabler, as we have been saying. Somehow expand AI use beyond the creative task. This is something that is already working. We were talking this morning about some brands and some companies that are already going into that direction. And then foster cross-team collaboration, so break down any kind of silos. Do you have any further recommendation for all of us here?
I guess my recommendations would be, again, look out for things that can potentially be improved or augmented. I think we're seeing the more successful approaches tend to do that. They're again dividing things into tasks. They're additionally, there's a lot of, Gen AI has to be trained based on content, right, and data. So I think focusing on getting your data core together, super important. A lot of brands are now asking, about the whole consent and permission part of that. So I think thinking through, if we are going to build AI models, what data are we using? Is it consolidated? And then do we have consent from people to actually build those? We're going to see a lot more legislation relating to, I think, punishing brands and tech companies that don't get consent or permission and then build models. But then There's going to be a lot more scrutiny in that, so I think that's an important part. And then when it comes to content and creative, being aware of copyright infringement, of just even having anything Gen AI creates, you can't trademark it or copyright it. So being aware of that, so getting common data and creative foundation core together is a prerequisite to a lot of it. So that's usually my recommendation when organizations approach us, is maybe you start there.
Don't be afraid. In other words, don't be afraid to open the doors to AI. As an example, we have even a small ski resort in the Alps that is using a platform like ours to run the daily operations across advertising. I think that's it. Thank you for being here with us today. And who wants to know more, we wait for you at our booth. And thank you. Thank you, Rio.
My pleasure.